So Christmas during the pandemic, it was a bit different for us.
Yeah, so December of 2021.
Well, we had to improvise because with the pandemic, your folks getting up in the age, we were a little concerned about getting together possibly, and so we had to do it via the internet through Zoom.
Yeah, my brother was going to come down, but
well, flying was tough.
Yeah, and then if he left Pennsylvania, he had to quarantine for like 10 days before he could go anywhere because of their requirements. So we wound up, instead of him coming from Pennsylvania, my sister from Raleigh, meeting together with my parents here locally. I think we got together with my parents, but my sister and my brother and his kids joined in via Zoom. Yeah. So we were at my parents with the big screen TV. And so it's the first time we had Christmas via Zoom.
Well, and every Christmas we do White Elephant, which is kind of a tradition for your family and our family now. We didn't do it when I was a kid, but...
well, we didn't either. We started this as adult children. So we all bring a gift. Sometimes it's a re-gift. It's not a lot of money.
It's a fun gift a lot of times.
We wrap them up, and then we pick numbers, if you've never played this game before. And whoever has one gets to pick the first gift, and they unwrap the gift. And then whoever gets two can either steal the gift from one or pick their own gift.
I mean, I think they know what White Elephant is in a way.
I was describing it in case there are people out there who don't know. And you go to the end of the numbers, and then we play, you go in reverse, and then the person can either keep their gift or steal. And there's only, you limit the steal backs. So here we are. We're half meeting by Zoom. I felt it was important to stick with our traditions. Our kids really look forward to getting together with their cousins, and we weren't getting together in person with them. And I wanted to still have the fun that we typically have and find a way. I'm like, well, we can do it via Zoom. And so we didn't know how we were going to do it, but we decided to do it anyhow. I'm trying to remember what it looked like.
Well, I remember Darren, your brother, he had plotted out gifts off of Amazon,
right.
Odd gifts. I think one was a cup about 2021, and
right.
Wanting to be away from it or something. Right. I can't remember, but so he plotted out all these. He had the pictures ready, and he shared screen. When they could pick, one.
But how did we do the number thing?
Yeah, that's another one I don't
so
remember.
Somehow
we did
I think, maybe our youngest generated numbers randomly on the computer. But anyhow, we did the number thing, and we were there in person, so we had some gifts, and we would unwrap the gift
and show it to
for the person. And with my brother, he pulled it up on the screen, and then what he did after, whoever earned the prizes he had picked out,
he sent them to us.
He mailed them to everybody,
and we mailed them to them. His came off of Amazon.
Right. Yeah. Right. So we just sent it directly. So we made it work. It was weird. It was silly. It was different, and yet we were able to still keep that tradition. Yeah,
I mean it's interesting because I think. The pandemic's not been fun. It was a lot of stuff of being secluded and all, but at the same time, it helped pull families together in a way. Some families that didn't join in and have dinner together and things like that started doing that, which I think was kind of a positive out of the pandemic.
Right.
Hello, this is Don and Gina with Focused Healthy Family.
Today we're going to share an interview that we did back during the pandemic. I believe it was in 2021. We did an interview with Short and Sweet Parenting Tips with Anne Hanovich. And she does like 10 to 15 minute podcasts. So there were 6 podcasts based on the interview we did with her. So we've taken 3 of those for this podcast, and then the other 3 we'll share in another podcast.
And this is podcast number 12. And so this is the first 3 parts, and we're talking about how to handle anxiety during the pandemic and especially using communication skills that we teach.
And, and post-pandemic, the pandemic has left scars in different ways with us, right? So even as it gets behind us, hopefully it's getting behind us, we're still dealing with anxiety and how it plays in our life. Hope you enjoy.
So before we do that, we're going to get a word from the sponsor, and then we will be into the interviews.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Q Sciences. Don and I discovered that the supplements we were taking and giving to our children were not being absorbed properly. I was very excited when I found Q Sciences. I was impressed with the quality of the products and that they provide maximum absorption. They have a variety of products, including a Q Max product, which is a combination of 3 products, including vitamins, minerals, and a probiotic. They also have hemp oil, a vitamin B12 spray, a sleep spray, and kids products. I've really seen a difference in how these products are improving how I feel, improving my mental health, and I'm happy with the quality of these products and how they're helping our whole family. If you'd like to learn more,
simply go to qsciences.focusedhealthyfamily.com. That's the letter Q, sciences.focusedhealthyfamily.com. Or you can find a link on the front page of the focusedhealthyfamily.com website.
And stop throwing your money away on supplements that don't work and use a quality product like Q Sciences.
The sun is shining, the sky is blue. It's time for short and sweet parenting tips.
Hello, short and sweet parenting tips here. We are talking about anxiety during COVID, and I'd like to welcome our guests, Dawn and Gina Grodhoff from the Focused Healthy Family Practice. Dawn is an EFT tapping practitioner, and Gina's an occupational therapist. So they combine their skills to help families not only change behaviors, but also minimize anxiety and increase the health of their family. Dawn also hosts a podcast called Invisible Wheelchair, where he unlocks the hidden mind of OCD and anxiety and advocates for positive recovery. So that's kind of what we're talking about, how to minimize stress during COVID by improving communications. So welcome, you two.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Oh, I appreciate you, your expertise in talking about anxiety during COVID. I mean, we've passed the 1-year anniversary.
Yes.
Yes, and hopefully keep going in that in a good direction. With
boy, no kidding. Who knew? Now, do you guys want to share anything more about your backgrounds?
Well, I mean, we basically work with families trying to help them through behavior and anxiety issues and do it in a more natural way.
Yeah, we've had kids with serious anxiety issues, and so part of the reason we're into this is wanting to help other parents. But right now, everybody's dealing with some anxiety issues.
Kids themselves, even if they're not in the situation we're in, they still don't understand it, and they're hearing all this news about it and all the fear that's going on around it. That too causes a lot of stress.
But they can't always verbalize what they're stressed about, and we might assume it's one thing and it's really not that. It's another aspect of it.
Well, that's what we talk about in our practice. Behavior is a foreign language. And what that means is that the behavior really is another means of communication, which is what we're talking about, that just is trying to tell of a deeper problem, the underlying problem. And I think that's one thing that we try to help families understand, that it's not really the behavior necessarily that needs to change, but you need to look at what's underneath
what's
it.
Causing the behavior, right? Kids don't just act out just to make us annoyed, even though it feels like that. There's a reason for their behavior. And just like a baby, you'd watch a baby and their behavior, and you can tell when they're hungry, when they're tired. When kids are acting out, that their behavior is not acceptable, we need to look at the reasons, what's going on, what need is not being met. Because that's really addressing those issues is really what changes the behavior. It's in the workshop we're doing right now, it's all about communication, learning new tools to be able to practice these skills, to develop new habits in your communication.
Yeah, and if you all would like to send me that link, I'm happy to put it on the Short and Sweet Tips Facebook page if you're
Sure.
interested in me sharing
Yeah, well,
that
we have
link.
another one coming up in April.
We're just about to conclude one. They're 6-week workshops as we've been doing 2 hours a night for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, this last class was actually on praise.
Oh, yes.
And
wow.
What's really amazing about, we don't think about as parents that praise could be detrimental or could go the wrong way.
Right.
And so in this, we talk about the fact of, and I'll give you the example of what, we are quick a lot of times to say good job or good boy or good girl about when they do something. The trouble with that is that the next day, if they're not the good boy or the good girl, it just negates that whole thought. Versus what we teach in it is to describe what they do instead of going after like their character. So
rather than using evaluating words, you describe, Mom, do you like my picture? I see that you took the time to draw details of the flower and the grass. And the idea is that they in turn then praise themselves. Because what other people think is not really what matters, right? We know this as adults, that what matters is what we think of ourselves. And if kids are constantly seeking that approval from others, it fosters that idea that other people have to approve of me versus recognizing their skills and their abilities. And then they're able to say, oh yeah, I'm a good drawer. I'm good at this.
Oh, that's huge because adults have a problem with that.
Oh yeah. So many of us are seeking approval all the time in so many ways.
Oh yeah. That's half the clients I work with, and that's what they're dealing with is they're trying to build their life on everybody else instead of on themselves. Yeah. And that's, we work on changing that. But that praise one was one that always just kind of amazed me. I had never thought about that, so.
Yeah, because at least for me as a parent, I'm trying to send my girls out of the nest with as few pieces of baggage as possible.
We can relate. Because as adults, we spend time having to uncover all that and deal with that. And
now, on the same thought though around that is one of the things I believe in is contrast. In our life, we have to understand some of the bad to really understand the good. Is that,
yes.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't want to be so paranoid as a parent not to make mistakes around my child.
Right.
But the big part of it is in communication and dealing and showing them how I can get past my mistake, how I can change my mistake, how I can get out of a bad and get into a good. So we give them by example.
And how we act is really what teaches our children. We can lecture at them, you need to do this, you need to do this, but they're really learning from how we're interacting with the world. So when we make a mistake and they see, oh, Mom made a mistake, Mom apologized for it, and now Mom's doing this, they're learning because life is going to have challenges, right? And what better way to learn to deal with those as a child in a safe environment and learning these skills from an early age.
I love what you said about apologizing because I feel like that is new to my parenting generation. And I do recognize how important it is to model that to our kids too.
Sure, because everybody wants their kids to say you're sorry when they do something wrong. But we make mistakes with our kids. We need to show them we can apologize because we're human and we're going to make mistakes too.
Well, and it goes into respect then. And that's a big part.
I love
that's
it.
A big philosophy of what backs our whole practice, our program, everything is respect. And it's two-way street. It's not just you have to respect me because I'm the parent. We also have to respect that they're little humans,
that they are individuals, right? Yeah. If you want your children to respect, it's important you give them respect.
So respect is what we'll be talking about next week when we continue this interview with Dawn and Gina Grodhoff from Focused Healthy Family. See you all next week on Short and Sweet Parenting Tips, fresh ideas in bite-sized portions.
Focused Healthy Family audience, stay with us for part 2, coming up next. So now, part 2 of this series on dealing with anxiety during a pandemic and respect.
Hey, short and sweet parenting tips here with episode 2 in the series giving parents tools to reduce anxiety during COVID. Today we're talking about respect, and we have Dawn and Gina Grodhoff here from Focused Healthy Family. Welcome back, you guys.
Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you. We enjoy this.
Last week we covered a bit of an overview, but I feel like respect is pretty foundational too.
What backs our whole practice, our program, everything is respect. And it's two-way street. It's not just you have to respect me because I'm the parent. We also have to respect that they're little humans,
that they are individuals, right?
Yeah.
If you want your children to respect, it's important you give them respect. And how important that is. I know when we were growing our practice together, Don asked me in one word, what would you say is most important about our philosophy? And I said respect, because if it boils down to that, if you don't have respect for your child, well, how can you expect them to have a respect for you and others?
Well, and then that the communication is one beautiful way to be able to do that too, is learning to communicate with them can build that respect and that relationship with your child.
And I feel like that's something kind of new, is that we respect our kids also, and that demanding respect is not the way to get it from our kids. What do you guys think?
This goes back through layers of the way things are done, and that's kind of what we work on, trying to change that pattern, to start recognizing the things we are saying and doing that really don't work. And it's only because it's habit, or that it's something that, I always talk about hearing my mom's voice come out of me, and I go, well, where did that come from? But that's the kind of thing we have to kind of work on changing, because not everything my mom said to me was the best thing for me.
Right. That goes for all of us. But even if I'm intentional about it, I still repeat those patterns.
And it's sort of a habit. We're in the habit, just like Don talked about. Habits of how we were parented, and those things happen automatically. We need to practice new skills to be able to do different. We can have the intention, I'm going to listen better with my kids. It's a new skill that has to be learned, and you have to retrain your brain to approach things in a new way.
Start building a relationship with them, so that throughout your whole life you've got a really good back and forth relationship, good communication, all of that.
I feel like a lot of parents, they build their relationship by trying to be their kid's best friend. And they think that is what is going to create that friendship long term. And so I just feel like it's counterintuitive to think, okay, if I'm trying so hard to be my kid's best friend now at 5 years old, that's not how to parent them in the long run, so that when they move out of the house, they're still going to want to have a relationship with me. Did I explain that?
I think part of that comes from the old authoritarian style of parenting. Do what I say, not what I do. Being lectured at, being told, be quiet, should listen but not speak, and all those kind of ideas. I think it's sort of rejection of that people go to the opposite extreme, right? But we're also, a best friend is going to say, oh yeah, your mom, my mom did this and I'm so angry at her. They're going, oh yeah, your mom sucks. And, and they have that kind of relationship that's at the same level, right? So we can have a relationship with our kids and have a connection and do things that we enjoy together, but it's different. I think it's sort of just that dichotomy. If I don't want to be like that, and then people are out there thinking I need to be my kid's friend, it's like, well, are you trying to get approval from your child?
Yeah.
Because you didn't have, what's going on there? What's the underlying thing there? Because it's, I hear that being a friend with your kid, I hear both sides of it, and to me, it really boils down to the respect part, and helping to foster and facilitate things with them. You are the adult. You do, make the final decisions. You're the one responsible to financially for them. So it's not a friend-to-friend situation.
Well, I mean, when we're dealing, like with my oldest daughter in the OCD, we went through some really rough stuff with her. And she was really young. And what I had to learn there is that I can be firm, but I can also have compassion with that. That she taught me that, because at first it was very hard for me not to be coming right back at her with stuff.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what this idea of a relationship is that we're still parents. We still, we can be firm with them. we still have to make decisions with them, and we can be compassionate about it because they're a child. It doesn't mean that we're on the same level with them as far as friendship. That's very different.
Right. But there's nothing wrong with entering your child's world. Our youngest is into Minecraft and different video games, and it's like, it may not be what I enjoy, but I can spend a half an hour and let them explain it to me and maybe try to play the game. And it's really a way of communicating. Like if your spouse says, I love tennis, will you play with me? Well, you might go out and do it once and say, okay, this isn't my thing, but I'm going to engage with you. And so you can do that with your kids with activities, right? So to me, that's different than.
And it's because the foundation was set.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad you said respect, because I feel like if a parent isn't acting like a parent, is there respect? If the parent's not respecting their own role, is the kid going to respect the parent? I also think about, and maybe you all could speak to this more than I can, there's security and boundaries for our kids.
Yes, there is, especially if they're dealing with extra anxiety, that, we want to give our kids freedom to make choices and have independence. And yet, yes, just like routines are calming. So yeah, having some structure, we all need a little bit of that, and that can be helpful for kids. And what you said before sparked something in me about respect with our kids. I've known parents who they go to the park and the kid wants to keep playing, and they stay and they play. So there's also a point where if you're not respecting your own needs and you're letting your kids' needs come first and trump yours, then what are you teaching your kids? That my kids matter more than me.
Oh, that's huge.
You've got to take care of yourself too. So it's a mutual thing. Well, you really want to do this. I need to do this. How can we make this work for both of us? You have to let your kids know what your needs are too, right? You don't want to ignore that. Again, that's one of those things that the kids are going to learn from you. If you're not doing self-care, if you're not taking care of your body, if you're not doing exercise, if you're not taking time to do what you enjoy, right? You're just going to work and you hate your job and, you're begrudging, that's what you're passing on to your kids.
I think logically we know that, but as moms, it's very difficult to live it out.
Well, yeah, because you get busy. There's things that have to be done. You got to feed the kids. You got to get the laundry done. You got to do the grocery shopping. For a lot of people, they said they enjoyed the aspect of the pandemic they've enjoyed is, being forced to be at home. And, like all of a sudden, and now I have more time because these other activities have been shut down, right? And so it's set them up in this new environment, and they're pointing out all the positives from the experience. With our kids, we can overschedule them with, you got your music lesson, you got your soccer, and you got all this you've got to do, and not having enough time in your day to just relax and enjoy
and sacrificing family time. And I'm hoping that a lesson coming out of COVID is to see the value of family time and that white space in your schedule. But my white space has gone out the window. I'm like, it's COVID. Why am I so busy?
Yeah, you get busy in a new way, right?
Yeah, right. So I guess next week we'll come back to discuss communication, which is really the focus of your practice, right?
We've always, our belief is that communication can either be a driver of anxiety or a reducer of anxiety, depending on how you do it. And we work on the reducing side of it.
Oh, I love that. And I don't think anyone's immune to anxiety right now, not with COVID.
No, not at all.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this week's parenting tip on how parents can use respect to reduce anxiety. We'll see you next week for more fresh ideas in bite-sized portions.
Focused Healthy Family audience, stay tuned for part 3 coming up next. And now on to part 3 of our series about dealing with anxiety during the pandemic. And now we're talking about communication.
Well, today on Short and Sweet Parenting Tips, we continue our series on reducing anxiety, and today we're talking about communication. Dawn and Gina Grodhoff from Focused Healthy Family are here again, and their entire practice centers on improving communication. So that's what we're talking about today.
Well, I mean, we basically work with families trying to help them through behavior and anxiety issues and do it in a more natural way.
Yeah, we had kids with serious anxiety issues. And so part of the reason we're into this is wanting to help other parents. But right now, everybody's dealing with some anxiety issues. And, realizing how important communicating is to help those people.
We've always, our belief is that communication can either be a driver of anxiety or a reducer of anxiety, depending on how you do it. And we work on the reducing side of it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I don't think anyone's immune to anxiety right now, not with COVID.
No, not at all.
Especially with parents, but I know people who don't have kids and aren't homeschooling, and their nerves are racked too.
Well, yeah. You can only take so much sequestering,
Right.
We are social people.
Yeah.
Yes. And now we're all stuck at home, with our kids, for those people who usually went to work and their kids went to school. And so communicating is always important, but it's even more important, in that environment of being there with them all day long and really thinking intentionally about how we're talking to each other, because it really has a big impact.
Right. Being intentional. We talk a lot about that. My husband and I he was a guest on my podcast, and we talked about being intentional and how important that was to the health of the family. So let's dig in. So what is your maybe number one suggestion on communication lowering anxiety?
Well, our workshop is based on the book called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. It's by Adele Faber and Elaine Maslish. So that's kind of a part of our practice, is using that skill. And so we've worked with them and created this workshop that we're offering to parents that really focuses on those communication skills. And the first aspect is dealing with feelings. And it really always goes back to that. We need to learn how to listen to and accept our children's feelings, okay? And everyone says, oh, you need to listen, it's important to listen. But what does it really mean to listen to someone when they're sharing with you? A large part of it is being quiet.
Yeah.
Our kids come to us, I'm all upset, my friend did this to me, I can't believe it, they hate me, everybody hates me, and they're going on and on. And we're very quick to jump in. Oh, it's not that bad. Oh, tell me about it. Oh, that's awful. They did that to you. And we get so wrapped into it, and they don't feel heard. A lot of times what they need is us to turn our attention, stop what we're doing, look at them. And one pointer is just acknowledging what they're saying with the word. Oh, and they will spill out their stuff.
And then be quiet. That's the other, the one word, and then shut up. A
lot of times when they're able to verbalize it, when they feel like you've heard them, and then, sometimes they can't identify a feeling, especially if a child is so upset, no matter what the age, then you can, wow, that sounds really upsetting, or your feelings were hurt. And if you're wrong, they'll correct you. And so as little as acknowledging, responding with a word like, oh, paying attention to them and helping to acknowledge that feeling, a lot of time that's all they need. And then they'll move on with their day. Whereas before, you're trying to fix it. You're you should do this. Let's problem solve. Let's go through this.
Or you're dousing it. You're putting it.
No, it's not that bad. Yeah. Oh, that's ridiculous. That's silly. You shouldn't be worried about that. Oh, your friends don't really think that about you. You don't realize what you're doing is negating what they're feeling.
Oh,
we need to accept all feelings. We're going to be sad. We're going to be hurt. We're going to be angry. And those feelings need to be accepted. In order for us to move forward with them, we have to first acknowledge what we're feeling.
Well, I tell a little story that we tell, if it's okay.
Oh, sure.
There was a time when our oldest, I think he was probably 11. Anyway, somewhere, he and his sister had a big blowout of some sort upstairs. And he came down our steps just fussing, just going at it. She did this. I can't believe it. Just really reared up, Now, normally for myself, I would probably have done, and before all of this, I would have said, oh, come on, it isn't that bad. Just get over it. But I was standing back from it. So I kind of saw them. They didn't really see me, but I was watching them. Well, Gina just kind of stepped back. She went, wow, you are really upset. I really want to understand. Tell me a little bit more. And I can still picture my son kind of turning around like, are you talking to me? And, the energy, his energy went down probably by about 50%. And he said, well, and he just kind of went on. And she just said, well, is there anything else? And when she was done, she said, well, how do you think you could resolve this? put it all back on him.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, I guess I could go up and talk to her. And she said, well, do you need me in there as kind of as referee or, mediator? And he said, no. And I swear, 5 minutes later, they were up there giggling with each other.
Oh, wow. What a beautiful result.
Yeah. And so what we tell people is, which would you rather have? Would you rather have a 5 or 10 minute conversation, or would you want to have an hour-long battle?
Yeah.
Right. A lot of times people say, oh, it's so much work to learn these skills and to do things differently. And yet it really can be as simple. A lot of it is about being quiet and letting your kids speak and express what they're feeling. Our youngest is very dramatic with everything, and friends do this. And letting her let her feelings out, acknowledging them, helping to identify the feeling, and then giving them the opportunity to come up with a solution, right? We're quick to give our kids answers and solutions. But when they have that opportunity to well, what do you think you could do about that? They come up with the answers, and then they're learning that autonomy. We want our kids to be able to make independent decisions. And so it really all plays together.
I have a tween, so I need this advice.
Well, and the age doesn't matter as much. I mean, it's easier when they're younger, yes, but this can happen at any time. I mean, I've actually worked with parents with adult kids that are having trouble and help them to work through, and communication was a big part of it, so age doesn't matter. Now, it may take a little longer, one, for the parents to learn it, and two, for the kids to kind of go, what are you doing?
You're not trying to fix me.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you start engaging your kids, and they're like, oh, they're actually listening to me. And it really can change that relationship and definitely help bring down anxiety, as is so important right now and always.
Yes. So if a parent did one thing today or this week that would decrease anxiety, what would you say that would be?
I would say accepting children's feelings.
Yeah. Listening and
letting them have their feelings, letting them know it's okay no matter what they're feeling.
Being quiet. Yeah, I mean that's
zip it.
Yeah,
because a kid can come to you with all kinds of stuff and they explode, and then I've done it. I've had to consciously think about this too with parenting, and then when I can do that, and then they're like, they run off and they're fine, and you're kind of like, whoa,
Well, yeah, it's really hard to be quiet. It's hard not to want to fix and not to solve, but to really pay attention to that.
It can be as simple as that. And with young kids they're having a fit or whatever, helping them to identify those feelings. You're frustrated or you're angry,
Putting words
to it for them when they can't do that. Then it's giving them a skill to identify those feelings.
Yeah, and validating those feelings like we already talked about. Thank you again, Dawn and Gina, really. Next week, they'll join us again to cover alternatives to punishment and how that can diffuse a stressful situation. You won't want to miss it. Hey, if anyone hasn't had the chance to leave a review on your podcast player for Short and Sweet Parenting Tips, please do. And don't forget to visit the Short and Sweet Tips Facebook page to find all the extras we post based on our episodes. That's it for Short and Sweet Parenting Tips. As always, fresh ideas and bite-sized portions.
That's our podcast for today. We hope you enjoyed listening to that interview. You can check out Short and Sweet Parenting Tips podcast as well. We'd also love to hear from you. Please leave a comment. And if you've liked what you've heard today, you can find out more about our parent coaching program or join us at our next upcoming workshop.
You can join us at focusedhealthyfamily.com or follow us on Facebook at Focused Healthy Family.
And remember, how you speak to your children shapes their future.